And welcome to our June edition of Sports Highlights, June 2022, and congratulations to all the graduates of all the Newport Youth Schools. This is Sports Highlights back in the studio this month. Our program is on TV and online. It airs on TV on Mondays at 7 a.m., 2 p.m., and 7 p.m., weekends at 9 a.m. on Cox Cable 47, 517, all over social media and YouTube as well. Greg Bicaveras, glad you're with us. Our guests for June are Raven Blair, the head softball coach at Warwick High School, and Bob Manners, who's the Aquatics Manager, Parks, Recreation, and Leisure Services in the city of Hampton. Raven, we'll start off with you. Good to see you, and Woodside graduate. So you've been involved in Newport News and softball for a while.
Yes, sir, I have, and thank you for having me. I've been playing softball since I was 4. I came from Georgia, and I came here. When I came here, I was like six years old. So I've been playing softball in the 7-5 for a good 12 years.
How did you get involved in softball?
I could say my dad, he coached me. My dad was my coach since I grew up. I also had another coach, Coach Chuck Williams. He was my T-ball coach all the way up to high school. I played AAU ball, same coach, Chuck Williams. Also Michael Talon, he was my softball coach for high school. And he also did a little bit of travel ball, AAU ball. And I also did 2 years of collegiate ball too.
Well, let's talk about, you mentioned the T-ball. Let's talk about the different balls first of all. T-ball is a little bit of a softer texture. Softball is bigger than a baseball, but it's also a little bit easier to hit because you can see it better.
Right.
Talk about the different textures of the balls.
The different textures. So we have a lot of different textures of softball. We have a pitching machine ball, the dimple ball. That's strictly just for practice. The T-ball is, yes, it's softer, a lot smaller. I believe it's an 8-inch. 12 inches the varsity level, 12 and up, 12U ball. That's tend to be yellow, and it's tend to be the original size that you use from 12 and up.
No, the dimples have little dimples in them.
Yeah, they have little dimple balls. They come off pretty fast, spin on the ground different ways to be defensively ready.
All right, so the whole point is you don't need a whole lot of equipment to play softball. You need a bat, of course, and need some protective gear if you're the catcher. So let's talk about your second year. How has the season gone?
It's very different than last year. We had a lot of girls. The beginning of the season, I did coach. I was the coach of JV and varsity, so I was coaching about 32 girls for a good, strong 4 weeks. The biggest thing that everybody came out. Last year, we only had straight 9. So if 1 was hurt, it was no game. 2 was hurt, really not no practice. But a lot of things turned around from the group of girls and coming out to actually know that you're having a softball team at your high school.
And it's really great, too, because, we're 2 years past COVID, but you're outdoors in the fresh air.
Right. COVID hit, that was bad.
Yeah, so they're a lot more confident playing outdoors. Right. Well, let's talk about some of the different skilled players on the team. Who has really stood out this year?
I can tell you all the girls really stood out this year. People who've never played before, they're out here hitting the balls in the green, in the grass. There's some girls who still haven't played before, catching balls, making impossible plays. So I can say the experienced girls, they're good. They still need help with fundamental softball. We start from the ground up and work up. So.
And not to mention, too, you went to Woodside High School. So you didn't graduate that long ago, just a few years ago.
Yes, sir.
So a lot of these seniors were freshmen when you were in school, correct?
Right.
You graduated in 2019.
Yes, sir.
So, did you ever play against any of your players?
Last year, yes. Some players I have played with, some recognize me. A lot of varsity softball coaches still be like, "Oh, Blair, that's you." So yeah.
Yeah,
still
excellent.
A little young.
They call you Raven and they call you Blair both, right? So you have 2 first names, which is very nice.
Thank you.
We're here with Raven Blair. She's the head softball coach at Warwick High School. So you have a lot on your plate when you're managing a game. You got to see whether the pitcher's tired, see how their arm is.
Right.
You can read girls pretty well because, you don't know what happened before they got on the field, what kind of day they had in school. So there's a lot going on.
Yes, there it is. So I actually open up the girls. I get them ready and get them dressed. After that, we all meet. No wandering around. I want you to have the same mindset as if when you see me and when you leave me. So we open up and we also talk about how your day is. How's your day? You got anything you need to let out? Let it out. Let me know. You don't want to talk about it face to face. You can also record yourself and send it to me later that night, just so you can get stuff off your chest. Because softball is a 90% mental, baseball too, 90% mental game, 10% fundamental. You don't have to know. You don't have to know how to run, but you definitely need to know the game to be on the field.
Now, do you girls travel together on the road trips? Technically, when you go to Menchville or go to Heritage, I mean, those are closer trips, Denby. But when you start going to Woodside, your alma mater, or start going to Gloucester,
Right.
or going to Bethel and Hampton, you have a lot of time to think before you get on the field, correct?
Yes, we do. We think on the bus. So when you get to school, that's if you had a bad day at school, we leave that behind, 100%. Once you get on the bus, you put your headphones in. There's no loud talking on the bus. I need your cleats to be on before you get off the bus, before you get to the field. So we use the bathroom. We get everything squared away before game day, because I want you 100% focused on the yellow object, which is the ball.
Yeah, the before and after can be distracting sometimes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Talking to Raven
Yeah.
Blair here, Greg Bicaveras, glad you're with us for our June 2022 show. Hard to believe we just had our
Right.
several shows we've been doing here since February of 1992. And you talk about what you're looking for a player that's never played softball before. There's a lot of it's fundamentals.
Right. The first thing I look for in a player, I want you to be like, I tend to look for naturally gifted people, people who want to be coached, people who are coachable, who tend to want to listen, want to work hard, because dedication is the number one. You got to be dedicated. Your parents have to be dedicated because they got to pick you up from practice. You got to be dedicated, come on time, dedicated and loyal to your players and to your coach. So I teach dedication, and I stay on top of that a lot, because if you're not dedicated, you're not going to love what you're doing.
Right, you really have to be a take charge person, because you girls are practicing in the wintertime
Right.
to start the season.
Right.
That's not easy.
Yeah, it's not. Hearing about different weather, I have allergies. A lot of things come into play, especially when you're working with females, because, we tend to want to be pretty all the time and keep everything up to right. But it's pretty good. They're doing pretty good. I'm getting mentally strong, mentally prepared for the real world and also the real softball world, instead of playing, rec league, scrubby ball.
Right, because you're going to slide into the field. You're going to get muddy, dirty,
Right.
and sweaty, and that's part of the grind of playing
Right.
softball. I tell you, it seems like it's really popular. The local CNU team has done very well.
Oh yeah, they really have. They actually have a great coach. I was gonna go, try and play for him, but it just didn't work out.
And you played for Norfolk State for a while, as far as
Yes.
going to school there.
Yes, I played 2 years for Norfolk State.
Yep, and you're trying to move on from there and just starting your own entrepreneurship, correct?
Yes, I decided to focus on my scholars and get everything right, because softball does take a lot of time, and I was dedicated. I did my years. I just wanted to retire a little bit.
All right, now tell the public, this is the most intriguing question here. You play at Warwick High School, as far as, that's where your school is, but your games are at Little Riverside Elementary School, correct?
Yes, sir. they are.
Explain how that dynamic works.
Yeah, that I really don't, agree with that, but it tends to mess with our girls' mentality. So everything starts there. If they feel like they're rushing to get on the bus, or if the bus not there on time and they feel like they got to rush on the field, that's something that I have to also handle and control, because I can't control the bus, but I can't control where our field's at either. So I have to get them to understand a lot of things aren't in my hands. So I can't control, that we're practicing at Riverside. I do want to practice at Warwick High School softball, and we're girls, but it's just not working out right there.
Right, the baseball team plays at Warwick, but the good thing
Yeah.
is for the road trips, you're right there at Warwick High School, and you'll go to Bethel or you'll go to Hampton, so it's a
Right.
lot easier going back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
As far as road trips are concerned.
Oh yeah, it's just 2 miles up the street.
Are road games more difficult than playing at home, in general?
I can say that we do play a little different when we're playing at home games. Our home games, I don't know what it is, but recently we've been doing pretty good at our home games. I thought we had a little curse on our home field, but we squashed it. We got it going. And the away games, they tend to show out. They tend to be a little bit more aggressive, and they like to show that they're Raiders.
Right. Now, as far as the opponents, who's been the toughest opponent since you've been coaching the last 2 years?
Toughest opponent, I could say
That you
Bethel.
faced? Bethel?
Bethel. Yeah, Bethel's they have very great utility players.
Is that why, the main reason?
Yeah.
They just got
The
players?
pitching is pretty strong. They got pretty good hitters. We can stick with them, but they are a pretty good team all around.
Before the season starts, do you go around and ask the girls what position they're going to play, or you kind of determine that based on their skill level, as far as whether you play first base, second base, or so forth?
If you're experienced, I'll ask you, but just because you tell me what you play doesn't mean you're guaranteed that spot. You can tell me you're All-American, but that doesn't mean you're All-American in my eyes.
Right.
I'll make you one, but
You got to prove it.
yeah, you got to prove it that 2 minutes you're one.
Your advice you would give to a young girl out there that wants to play softball, JV, and varsity, what would you tell her?
I would tell her, don't give up, because I know it's a cliche thing that you always hear, but I think you can never give up, because my coach always told me, all my coaches told me, that you're gonna fail a lot when you're playing softball. You fail, dropping the ball, that's a failure. Swinging and missing a strike, that's a failure. Not feeling the ground ball going between your legs, that's a failure. But you still have to get up that same inning and field that same next ball for your team and for yourself.
A lot of it's in between our own ears, you know, and the outside noise can be a distraction.
Right.
Very good. Well, Raven, all the best to you. Thank you for being on our June show, and
Thank you.
all the best to Warwick High School in your future as well in business.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Raven Blair right there, the head softball coach at Warwick High School, just finishing her second year. Stay tuned for Bob Manners as Sports Highlights continues after this.
You're watching NNPS TV. Catch sports highlights on Mondays at 7, 2, and 7, and on Saturdays and Sundays at 9 a.m. Visit us online at nnpstv.com to view all your favorite episodes. NNPS TV, watching education happen.
And welcome back to our June show right here, Sports Highlights in the studio. Greg Picaveras, glad you're with us and our entire crew. Hope you enjoyed Raven Blair. Let's switch gears to another great sport in the summertime, but really year-round, is water, pool, and the beach. And, of course, we're talking to Bob Manners. He is the Aquatics Manager, Parks, Recreation, and Leisure Services for the city of Hampton. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
How have you enjoyed being in Hampton the last several years?
It's been great. Great people, great people to work with. Everything's been fantastic.
Let's talk about your background a little bit. You worked in North Carolina, too.
I've actually worked all over the place. I worked in North Carolina, I've worked in Texas, grew up in Northern Virginia, up in Springfield, worked up there. So I've been around a little bit.
Before we talk about the beach and the pool, let's talk a little bit about lakes, because I'm sure you've been around lakes as well. One thing, a lake might look calm, but what's inside of the lake can be very scary. I mean, like snapping turtles, water moccasins. So you have to be careful of a lot of things in a lake that you wouldn't have to worry about in a beach or a pool.
Yeah, you also have to worry about floating objects that are, because most of the time when they get wet, they get waterlogged, they're not floating on the surface of the water like logs or things like that. You also have the rocks under the water. So you got to be really, really careful if you're planning on diving into a lake, worry about those things as well. So it's that and the aquatic life, like you said, the snapping turtles, snakes, all kinds of fun things.
Right, they have a mind of their own. And of course, you really can't see that much in a lake too. So you can easily break your neck if you're not careful.
Absolutely.
You know, because there's really not a whole lot of lifeguards. And in some big cities, they do have lifeguards for lakes.
Right.
But around here, it's pretty much the beach and the rivers. Well, let's talk about Buckrow Beach. It's been around for a long time. I've had fishing piers there, good quality of life. Not as big as Virginia Beach, but it's still a great alternative for for locals and tourists both. Let's talk about the beach.
Sure. Buckrow, we actually do get a lot of people coming over from Virginia Beach who just don't like the crowds over there. Buckrow Beach is almost a mile long. We do have the fishing pier at one end. We have an observation pier in the middle. We have a new company coming in with jet skis and paddle boards that are going to be renting out for that. And we have, there's a comfort station there, so there's lots to do in the area, but it's not quite as crowded as Virginia Beach is.
Right. Let's talk about the lifeguards there and realize how you have to train them and prep them because each year is different. Each summer is different. Unfortunately, drownings do happen. You guys have been pretty blessed there at Buckrow for the most part, not too many, but Virginia Beach and Nags Head have had several.
They have. Unfortunately, they actually, I know last year Virginia Beach actually had several before Memorial Day. Luckily, they did have guards out there to before Memorial Day. To help with those, but they have had the drownings there. Our guards, we've been very, very lucky. We actually had not this past summer, but the summer before that, we actually, during the height of COVID, we actually did have 42 rescues out there. People didn't have anything to do except go to the beach. They weren't used to swimming, and so they were out at the beach and didn't really understand the dangers that the beach poses.
I think they tend to let their guard down.
Absolutely.
Especially when the water is warmer in July and August. And that's we're into June now. So let's talk about that. Just because the weather might be 80 degrees, the water temperature doesn't necessarily agree.
Absolutely. Currently, I think it's probably at about 55 or 56. It won't start warming up to where it's a comfortable temperature until about the middle of June, the middle of July. But at that point, the water temperature actually attracts jellyfish. So we end up getting into a season where we have jellyfish in the water, which you have to watch out for. But all in all, it's just, you don't have the huge waves usually that you do at Virginia Beach or Nags Head, the Outer Banks. But it's just a great place to come and have fun with your family.
Absolutely. It's good quality of life. As we're talking to Bob Manners, the Aquatics Manager, he is with the city of Hampton. This is our June edition of Sports Highlights. Glad you're with us too. And you talk about we live in a very distracted world where people are addicted to their phones, which is good, bad, and sometimes not too good. You have to tell your lifeguards, once they're on that stand, they need to be focused, correct?
Absolutely. They're not allowed to have their phones with them while they're on the stand. They have to be completely focused on what they're doing. We do give them breaks to sort of break up the monotony of sitting on the stand. But the cell phones and the smart watches are a major distraction for our guards, and we just don't allow them.
And you tell them that pretty much before the summer starts, right?
Oh, before we hire them.
Right.
Yes.
Now let's talk about the pools and so forth. Newport News has had the big Midtown Community Center since the 90s. Hampton is in the current construction of one where the old Best location is right there in the middle of Hampton there.
Right.
Talk about how that progress is and what is that facility going to look like once it's done?
It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be state of the art. The main pool is going to be a 50-meter, 25-yard with 2 bulkheads to divide up the pool for multiple different things going on at the same time. We already have several national events scheduled for the facility. Then adjacent to that is going to be a 25-yard, 8-lane recreation warm-up, cool-down pool for big events. And then outside there's going to be a spray park, water park type thing with a shallow area pool, a big slide, current channel, things like that. So
Now, will it be like multi-purpose like Newport uses or primarily just aquatics?
no, it's just going to be simply aquatics.
So nobody can go there and play ping pong, for
No.
example. Okay, I gotcha. We're talking to Bob Manners, the Aquatics Manager for Parks, Recreation, and Leisure Services for the city of Hampton, NNPS Telecom on YouTube as well, and of course at Greg Bick on Twitter and YouTube too, talking to Bob Manners. And Bob, you talk about the pool safety as far as even then, the pool might be smaller than the beach or the river or the lake, but you still have to stay focused on that as well.
Absolutely, and it's a different type of guarding that we do there. With the open water, you can't see below the surface of the water, so you're actually having to do more of a scanning above the water. Swimming pools is 3-dimensional. You have to do the entire top of the area of the pool, but you also have to worry about what's going on underwater. So that's a totally different focus for the guards.
Right, you've heard disaster stories where people have pool parties and you can give some advice and they let go of Johnny or Susie and all of a sudden Johnny or Susie are nowhere to be found, and that can be scary. I mean, one blink of the eye and somebody can disappear.
Absolutely. The one thing actually 2 things we tell parents. 1, teach your kids how to swim. and 2, learn CPR in case
Right.
something does happen.
Right. Now, what advice would you give for the pool party? A lot of them go on during the summertime that people can get distracted even more. Then that's different from, let's say, swimming laps. But even then, you could have heart issues, you could have health issues. The buddy system always seems to be the best.
Yeah, it really does. So if you're at a pool where there isn't a lifeguard dedicated to guarding, make sure you have somebody who's watching you, whether it's a buddy, a parent, somebody who's watching you. If you're at the beach, don't go by yourself, even if there are lifeguards, because there are so many people out there. Have somebody who's paying attention to you. Parents, I know that it's not the cool thing to do, but if you can afford it, maybe hire somebody for your backyard pool, a qualified lifeguard, just to be on the safe side.
Right. It doesn't matter how big the pool is either.
No, absolutely.
Very good. Talking to Bob Manners, and you talk about some of the pools that you guys manage right now and look at during the summer before the big aquatic center will be open.
We actually have 2 right now. One is the Hampton Aquatic Center, and that is off of Butler Farm Road, which is now off of Neil Armstrong Boulevard.
Yeah.
And that pool is a great tool for us because it's a shallow pool. It goes from 3.5 feet to 6 feet, so it's a fairly shallow pool where we can do lessons and a lot of aerobics and things like that. We have a spa, we have saunas in the bathrooms. The other one we have is at Fort Monroe Community Center, and that one, when we took it over from the military, they had actually put in grab rails around the pool for therapeutics for their troops, which we use a lot for our kids in swim lessons and for water aerobics as well. So and that pool is deeper, so that's where we teach our lifeguarding classes.
And exercise is great, and that can be good for physical and mental as well.
Absolutely.
Something about getting in the pool or the water feels really good on the mind and the body.
It really does. It really does. The number of people who don't even know how to swim who come in and take an exercise class with us in the water, they always feel better, and we always hear about how great they feel after the workout.
Now, this is a question you're always asked, whatever state you've been in before. You know, when you take a shower in the morning, you can adjust the water. Yeah. Now, you can't adjust it, the pool. It seems like that first jump, no matter how old you are, can be devastating sometimes.
It can be.
Why is that so much?
Well, if the operator is doing their job, the air temperature in the pool area is really warm. So when the person walks into the pool area, they feel that warmth, and no matter what the pool temperature is, it always feels colder than the air. Yeah,
It's difficult.
Yep.
I mean, it can be, and that's the thing too. We mentioned, the summer. Don't let the summer fool you. Okay, the calendar is June, but you can still get hypothermia, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, if you're wet and there's a wind blowing and it gets cooler, you can actually, absolutely.
Yeah, especially with the wind as well. Talking to Bob Manners, Aquatics Manager, what have you learned from the other gentlemen and ladies that have worked in the peninsula and the south side as far as y'all come together and have meetings?
We do work with Dan Jones in Norfolk, work with Tommy Miller in Newport News, and Tom Gill, Virginia Beach Lifeguard Association. And we work together on doing training, not just for the pool lifeguards, but we also try to get together and train our beach guards, so we're all working together.
Now, do you guys pretty much start near the pier, and you also do parts of Fort Monroe too, correct?
We do parts of Fort Monroe. We do start at the pier, actually 300 feet from the pier, because that's a private area where you're not allowed to swim. For obvious reasons, fish hooks and everything. And then we actually go all the way up to the private area of the beach at Buckrow.
Yeah, and you came at a very transitional time, right before COVID,
Yes,
and as
sir.
that pier was being destroyed literally.
Yes, it
So
was.
how was that start?
That was interesting.
Yeah.
I actually started, my first day was in April 16th, so it was right as we were gearing up for the summer. And we actually got 2 good years in, and then COVID hit, and it was just, we weren't sure how we were going to do it. We couldn't train our lifeguards properly because they couldn't come into contact with each other. We just had to do the best we could, and we muddled through. We got through. We were very, very lucky, and now that we're coming out of it, we're trying to gear back up again.
We're not going to mention the county or the city by name, but there is one big area here that does not have lifeguards, and that baffles me totally because so many people go across the bridge and go from one place to another. What advice would you give to any municipality in the United States that does not have lifeguards for a big body of water?
They're opening themselves up for a major liability lawsuit. We've seen numerous times where even at swimming pools where they have the signs up, no lifeguard on duty, swim at your own risk, those signs don't work. If you provide an attraction where you're allowing people to come in, something happens, they're going to be liable for it.
Especially when you're dealing with masses of people.
Absolutely.
You know, even water parks too. There's
Yes.
several water parks in the area too, and wave pools can be very dangerous.
Absolutely, yeah, and they actually have special training that they do at the wave parks.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking to Bob Manners right here, and really, it's a mindset. You have to be in a good mind frame to be a lifeguard. And talk about some of the certification qualities.
Well, we actually we have American Red Cross lifeguarding, which includes CPR for the professional rescuer, AED, first aid, and then after they're hired, we add oxygen administration and bloodborne pathogens training, which OSHA requires, and then we also do monthly in-service trainings where we make sure that their training is up to standard. And then for the beach, we actually have to change and modify how we rescue because of the water conditions. So we have to do additional training for our beach staff. So that's basically what we do.
All right, forbid. I've been swimming my entire life, but still we have anxiety. We've had a rough day. Mentally, we're not right. We're in the water. It's probably not a good time to go in the water. What happens if you're drowning?
Basically, the drowning victim does not know what they're doing. They have lost their conscious mind. All they want to do is keep their face out of the water so they can breathe. It's called the instinctive drowning process. And they will grab hold of anything and everybody that they can to keep their face out of the water. So, you know, if you encounter a drowning person and you don't know what you're doing, unfortunately, the best thing I can tell you to do is stay away, because they're going to grab you and you're going to become a victim as well.
Yeah, most of us have been swimming, have been saved at least once because we think we got this, but
Right.
we don't know the undertow either.
Absolutely. You know, the rip currents you have at the beaches, and actually at Buckrow, we don't have a rip current, we have a cross current.
Yeah.
It's a totally different mindset and a way of dealing with the environment.
Like Bob said, it could be rocks, it could be parameters, it could be the current, or it could be the undertow. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Great to be here.
Very good. Bob Manners, Aquatics Manager, Parks, Recreation, and Leisure Services for the City of Hampton. Folks, we can save one life today. You can never take for granted whether you're in a pool, a beach, a hot tub even, you know, a lake, a river, wherever you might be, because during the summer we tend to go to all those parts of the water there. So really, thank you for your time and your talent today as well. And of course, your safety about swimming and going to the beach and the pool. I want to thank our great guests today, Raven Blair and Bob Manners, and our great crew led by Ray Price as well. This is our June edition of Sports Highlights. We'll come back to you again in August. And for the entire crew, I'm Greg Nicoveris. We'll talk to you soon.